Snow drifted across the steps of the Manhattan Civil Court, turning the morning into a blur of white and bitter wind. Alina Marlowe stood at the bottom of the staircase, clutching the divorce envelope like it was the only thing keeping her upright. People rushed past her without a glance. Her breath shook as tiny flakes settled in her hair, melting down her cheeks where tears had already carved their path. Moments earlier, she had signed the papers alone in a silent room that smelled of old folders and cold air. No wedding ring on her finger, no husband waiting outside, just the echo of a pen scraping across the final line of a marriage she'd fought so hard to keep alive. Grant Sutherland hadn't bothered to show up. He was thousands of miles away on a yacht in Miami, celebrating his new beginning with Miranda Hale, a woman powerful enough to crush entire companies with a single phone call. While Elena had sat trembling over legal documents, Grant had posted a photo of himself raising a glass of champagne, the caption reading, "Freedom has a taste." The comments had exploded with praise. No one wondered where his wife was. No one cared. Elena pressed a hand against her belly, feeling the faintest flutter beneath her coat. The baby had been a surprise, one she discovered right after Grant emptied their joint savings for a doomed investment. He knew she was pregnant. He simply didn't care. The thought made her swallow hard as a wave of nausea rolled through her. Maybe it was the pregnancy. Maybe it was the heartbreak. Maybe it was the sharp, stabbing cold that wrapped around her bones like punishment. Her vision blurred again, but she forced herself to breathe. One step, then another. She needed a place to sit, anything to stop the dizzy spell tightening around her. She made it 3 steps along the sidewalk before her knees buckled. The world tilted sharply. Horns blared in the distance. People gasped but didn't stop. Someone muttered for her to move out of the way. Elena's fingers scraped helplessly against the concrete as her body folded toward the ground. But she didn't hit the pavement. A pair of strong hands caught her just before she collapsed, steadying her with surprising gentleness. A deep voice, low, calm, unmistakably controlled, spoke near her ear. "Easy, I've got you." She blinked, dazed, lifting her gaze to the man kneeling beside her. A tall figure in a charcoal overcoat, sharp jawline, dark eyes that held a quiet intensity. Rowan Thorne, billionaire hotel magnate, a man she had only ever seen in passing at the hotel where she worked. What was he doing outside the courthouse? He studied her pale face, the tremor in her hands, the envelope slipping from her grip. Something unreadable flashed in his expression, concern. And something else she couldn't place. "Elena," he said softly, as if he already knew her story, "you shouldn't be out here alone." For the first time that day, she felt a warmth that wasn't from the winter air. And then Rowan's gaze fell to the small swell beneath her coat, realization hitting him like a strike of lightning. His eyes widened, and he whispered, "You're pregnant?" The cold wind cut across Fifth Avenue as Rowan steadied Elena, helping her sit against the stone ledge of the courthouse wall. Her breaths came uneven, fogging in the winter air. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The shock of nearly collapsing, mixed with the humiliation of being seen in her most fragile state. Rowan shrugged off his charcoal overcoat and draped it gently around her shoulders. The fabric was warm, soft, carrying the faint scent of cedar and something expensive she couldn't name. It made her feel strangely safe, something she hadn't felt in a very long time. "Take your time," Rowan murmured, crouching beside her. His voice held no judgment, just steady patience. Elena pressed a trembling hand against her belly, willing her breathing to settle. The baby shifted lightly, reminding her that she wasn't alone, even when the world made her feel like she was. After several seconds, she managed to whisper, "I'm okay. I just haven't eaten much today." That was only partly true. She hadn't eaten because she had no appetite. She hadn't eaten because her refrigerator held nothing but half a carton of milk and a container of cold pasta. But mostly, she hadn't eaten because her heart had been too shattered to care. Rowan glanced at the envelope containing her divorce papers. "Rough morning," he said quietly. Elena let out a bitter laugh that cracked before it finished. "You could say that." She hated how small her voice sounded, how exhausted. She pulled the coat tighter, grateful for the warmth. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this your problem. I didn't expect anyone to help." His brows lifted slightly. "You almost passed out on the sidewalk. That makes it everybody's problem." His gaze softened as he studied her pale face. "How far along are you?" "4 months," she whispered. Rowan didn't react with surprise or awkwardness. He simply nodded, as if storing the information with care. "Do you have someone to call? A friend, maybe? Family?" She swallowed hard. "No. Not anymore." Her parents had cut ties after Grant convinced them she'd stolen money from him. Her best friend had moved to Seattle last year. The only people she interacted with now were coworkers. And after today's court hearing, she had taken the day off without pay, leaving her shift uncovered. She didn't even know if her job was safe. Rowan studied her a moment longer. He wasn't just looking. He was understanding. "Elena," he said slowly, "you work at the Marlowe Ballroom in the Thorn Hotel, right? The event design?" She stiffened. "Yes, I'm just an assistant." "I've seen your work," he replied. "Your winter display in the lobby last month? That was your idea." Her face warmed despite the cold. "It's nothing, just lights and ribbon. It created the best guest engagement numbers of the season." He smiled slightly. "That's not nothing." Elena lowered her gaze, embarrassment creeping in. Compliments from Rowan Thorn. A man whose signature built skyscrapers felt too heavy for her to hold. She didn't deserve kindness today. Not when her life was unraveling in every direction. A gust of wind swept down the street, and Rowan looked around. "You shouldn't stay out here. You need warmth, food, and someone to make sure you don't faint again." She shook her head weakly. "I don't want to trouble you. I just need to get home. I'll take the subway." He raised an eyebrow. "You can't even stand up without help." She tried to lift herself. Her knees wobbled instantly. Rowan caught her arm before she could fall again. "Elena," he said firmly but gently, "let me take you home. No expectations, no assumptions, just safety." Her throat tightened. For months, she'd been alone, carrying a child, carrying debt, carrying blame that wasn't hers. And now, out of nowhere, someone was offering support she didn't have to beg for. She hesitated, then nodded once. Rowan signaled his driver, and a sleek Mercedes S-Class eased toward the curb. As he helped her inside, Elena pressed a hand to her belly again, whispering a silent promise that maybe, just maybe, things might change. But she didn't know yet that this simple ride home would ignite a chain of events that would shake every corner of her life, including Rowan's. The Mercedes S-Class glided through Manhattan like a dark, silent shadow, its interior warm and dimly lit. Elena pressed back against the leather seat, trying to steady her breathing while Rowan sat a respectful distance away, hands folded, gaze occasionally drifting toward her, not intrusively, but as if making sure she didn't fade out again. Outside, Fifth Avenue shimmered with winter lights, towering buildings rising like cold marble giants around them. Luxury storefronts, Cartier, Tiffany, Dior, flashed past, each one a reminder of a world Elena didn't belong to anymore, if she ever had it all. Her apartment existed at the opposite end of the spectrum, a cramped, aging walk-up on East 74th Street. The kind of place where the hallway lights flickered, the elevator never worked, and neighbors argued through paper-thin walls. A far cry from the glittering skyline Rowan lived above. She didn't want him to see where she lived, not like this. Not when her dignity already felt scraped raw. Rowan's driver turned onto a narrow street, far less glamorous than the glittering avenue they'd left behind. Elena tensed, embarrassed by the contrast. Trash bags lined the curb. A flickering neon laundromat sign buzzed weakly. The building was older than her parents' marriage, bricks weathered and patched like skin stretched too thin. "You live here?" Rowan asked softly, not mocking, not judging, just surprised. Elena nodded, pulling his oversized coat tighter around her. "It's temporary." Temporary had become 2 years. 2 years of Grant promising they'd move when he closed the big deal. 2 years of Elena believing him, and now she was alone in a place that felt smaller every day. Rowan stepped out first, offering his hand to help her. For a moment she froze, staring at the hand that belonged on magazine covers and investor panels, not outside rundown apartments. But her legs were unsteady, and his touch was steady, so she took it. Inside, the building smelled faintly of old carpet, and someone cooking burnt onions. They climbed the stairs slowly, Elena leaning on the rail, Rowan hovering close enough to catch her if she stumbled. When they reached her floor, she paused, winded. "You don't have to walk me in," she murmured. "I know," Rowan said gently. "But I'm not leaving until I know you're safe." Her throat tightened again, an emotion she didn't have a name for. She unlocked the door to her apartment. It swung open with a creak, revealing a dim, chilly room. A small couch, peeling paint, a wobbly lamp, and a kitchenette that barely fit two people standing. Boxes of baby items, most from thrift stores, were stacked in a corner. It wasn't dirty, just lived in and tired, like her. Rowan stepped inside quietly, scanning the room, not judging, just observing the reality she lived in. Elena rushed to flip on the heater, which rattled loudly and spit out a weak breath of warm air. "You shouldn't be climbing all those stairs," Rowan said, concern slipping through his usually controlled voice. "Not in your condition." "It's all I can afford right now," she answered, lowering herself onto the couch. She felt exposed, small, and yet oddly relieved that someone finally saw the truth. Not the version Grant had twisted, not the version she pretended to hold together at work. Rowan stood in the center of the room, hands in his pockets, brows drawn slightly. "Elena, does anyone know you're pregnant? At work?" She shook her head. "I didn't want to lose hours. I need every shift I can get." A long pause. Then Rowan said something she never expected. "You can't live like this. Not you. Not the baby. Let me help, just until you're stable." Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. And before she could answer, 3 hard knocks thundered at her door. Rowan's expression sharpened instantly, and he stepped in front of her as a harsh voice barked, "Elena Marlowe, open up. We need to talk. Now." The pounding on the door grew harsher, rattling the thin frame as if someone meant to break it down. Elena's breath hitched. Rowan immediately stepped forward, positioning himself between her and the entrance with a protective instinct so swift it stunned her. Whoever was outside didn't just sound impatient, they sounded angry. And angry knocks had followed her for months. "Elena Marlowe," the voice barked again. "Open the door. Now." Her stomach tightened painfully. She knew that tone. She had heard it dripping down phone calls, echoing in voicemails left at 3 in the morning, whispered by neighbors when they told her someone had come asking questions. It wasn't Grant. That would have been almost easier. No, this voice belonged to someone far more ruthless. Rowan glanced over his shoulder, lowering his voice. "Who was that?" "Martin Keene," she whispered, her fingers trembling. "Grant's financial advisor and his enforcer. The one who delivered the paperwork for the fake loans. He said if I didn't pay them back, her voice broke. "He'd take legal action against me for debts Grant created." Rowan's expression hardened into something cold and razor-sharp. "Stay behind me." Another round of pounding shook the apartment. "Elena, last warning." Rowan opened the door just enough to block the hallway. Martin Keene stood there in a long black overcoat, his expression twisted with annoyance. He was in his 40s, balding slightly, with sharp eyes that scanned for weakness. Unfortunately for him, the man blocking the doorway had none. Martin blinked, then frowned. "Who the hell are you?" Rowan's tone was calm, measured, but carried an unmistakable weight. "Someone who wants to know why you're harassing a pregnant woman at night." Martin scoffed. "This is none of your business. Elena knows exactly why I'm here. She owes money, a lot of it, and her deadline's up." Rowan didn't move. "Step back." "I don't take orders from random boyfriends," Martin sneered. "Tell her to stop hiding. We can do this the easy way or the—" "That's enough." Rowan's voice didn't rise, but something in it made Martin falter. "You'll leave. You'll call her lawyer, not show up at her home unannounced." Martin barked a mocking laugh. "Lawyer? She can't even afford a new pair of shoes." His gaze darted past Rowan, landing on Elena. His smirk widened. "There you are. Did you think Grant wouldn't tell me everything? You can't escape debt by crying in courthouses, sweetheart." Elena's heart pounded, her palms damp. She stepped back instinctively, but Rowan shifted slightly, blocking Martin's view of her entirely. "Let me make this clear," Rowan said quietly, dangerous calm settling over him. "If you contact her directly again, if you come near her in any way, you'll be dealing with me." Martin opened his mouth, prepared to throw another insult. Then recognition dawned. His eyes widened. "Wait, Thorne? Rowan Thorne?" Rowan didn't blink. "Leave." Martin swallowed hard, suddenly aware that he wasn't threatening a powerless woman anymore. He was standing in the doorway of a man whose name carried more weight in Manhattan than entire corporations. Martin stepped back, forcing a strained smile. "Fine. But she can't hide behind you forever. Those debts are under her name. and the people she owes don't like being kept waiting. Rowan shut the door firmly before Martin could finish. The apartment fell into thick, suffocating silence. Elena sank onto the couch, shaking. "He's right," she whispered. "The loans are under my name. Grant signed everything as if he were me, and now they want money I don't have. I didn't even know about half the accounts until the threats started." Rowan turned toward her slowly, his jaw tight. "Elena, how much do you owe?" She lifted her eyes, filled with fear she could no longer hide. $230,000. Rowan inhaled sharply. Before he could respond, Elena whispered the truth she had been too ashamed to say. "Grant forged my signature, and he's planning something worse." Rowan stood frozen for a moment, processing what Elena had confessed. Forged signatures, illegal loans, a pregnant woman left to carry the consequences. It was worse than he expected, far worse. But before he could speak, Elena lifted a shaking hand and whispered, "There's more." Her voice was thin, trembling like a frayed wire ready to snap. "Grant, he told me he would make sure I was seen as unstable. That if I ever tried to expose what he did, he'd tell everyone I was having emotional episodes, that the pregnancy made me irrational, that I was suicidal." Her throat tightened. "He said people believe the louder voice, and his is always louder." Rowan's expression changed, slowly, dangerously. The calm, collected composure he usually wore shifted into something far more lethal. "And people believed him?" Elena nodded, tears escaping. "My parents did. His family did. Even some coworkers." She swallowed hard. "He said he'd finish the job if I ever embarrassed him publicly. I don't know what he meant, but—" She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Rowan lowered himself to kneel in front of her, not because she was fragile, but because he refused to stand above someone who had been stepped on enough for a lifetime. He rested a steady hand on her arm. "Elena, whatever he's planning, he won't get to you again. Not while I'm here." Her lip trembled. "Why are you helping me?" It wasn't an accusation. It was a genuine question from a woman who had been abandoned by every person she thought she could trust. Rowan hesitated, for the first time that night, before answering. "Because people like Grant count on no one stepping in. They thrive on fear and silence, and I've spent too many years watching that kind of man destroy lives." He held her gaze. "Not this time." Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed violently against the table. She stiffened, dread flashing across her face. Rowan reached for it before she could, flipping the screen over. A video notification. From Grant. No, worse, from Miranda Hale's official account. Elena's stomach dropped. "Please, just delete it." But Rowan shook his head. "If they're escalating, we need to know how." He clicked. The video loaded instantly, professionally shot, perfectly edited. Grant had always loved theatrics. It showed Elena at a hotel corridor a week earlier, looking exhausted from a double shift. The footage had been cut to make it appear like she was confronting one of Grant's assistants, her voice raised, her gestures agitated. The audio had been manipulated. The caption read, "Unstable, aggressive. Grant Sutherland's ex-wife needs help before she hurts someone." The comments were vicious. "Yikes, she should be committed. Grant dodged a bullet. She's pregnant? God help that kid." Elena covered her mouth, sobbing silently. "It's fake. I never touched anyone. I was asking where Grant was. He was 2 hours late picking me up. That's all." "I know," Rowan said, voice tightening. "This is a smear campaign. A cruel, strategic, calculated smear campaign." Another notification pinged. A fresh post from Grant's own account. A photo of him and Miranda, clinking glasses at a rooftop bar overlooking the Manhattan skyline. The caption sliced right through Elena. "Moving on. No more chaos." Rowan's jaw clenched. "That's enough," he said, rising to his feet. Elena wiped her tears. "Enough? Rowan, they're destroying my life. No one will believe me now. They're too powerful." Rowan turned to her slowly. "Elena," he said with quiet conviction, "they made one fatal mistake." She lifted her eyes, barely breathing. "What mistake?" He took her phone and placed it gently in her hands. "They assumed you were alone." Before she could answer, another knock sounded at her door. Soft this time, hesitant. Rowan's gaze sharpened instantly, and a man's voice whispered through the wood. "Elena, it's urgent. Something happened to Grant." Elena froze at the soft, trembling voice behind the door. It didn't sound like Martin Keene or any of Grant's usual circle. This voice carried fear. Raw, quivering fear. Rowan stepped forward instantly, lifting a hand to silence her. Stay here. He opened the door just enough to keep his body blocking the entrance. A young man stood in the dim hallway, drenched from the icy drizzle outside. Maybe mid-20s, breathing hard, clutching his phone as if it were the only thing anchoring him to reality. His eyes were wide, frantic. Are you Elena Marlowe? He asked, voice cracking. Rowan didn't bother hiding the steel in his tone. Who's asking? The man swallowed. I work at Hale Financial. I'm an intern. My name is Tyler Brandt. Please, I'm not here to hurt her. He looked past Rowan toward Elena, who remained frozen on the couch. I came because I think she's in danger. Rowan stiffened. Explain, now. Tyler stepped back, wiping rain from his face. Miranda, she's planning something. Something big. She said Grant is the first domino, and she kept saying Elena's name. Elena felt her stomach twist violently. What do you mean? What happened to Grant? Tyler hesitated, then lifted his phone with shaking hands. A photo filled the screen. Grant in an ambulance stretcher, face pale, eyes barely open. Paramedics surrounded him. A caption from a news alert glowed brightly. Grant Sutherland hospitalized. Possible overdose. Foul play investigated. Elena's breath shattered. For a second, she forgot how to inhale. Her knees turned to water, and she sank into the couch as if gravity had doubled. No, this can't be, she whispered, fingers digging into the cushions. Rowan caught her trembling shoulders, easing her upright. Elena, look at me. Breathe. But she couldn't. Images collided in her mind. Grant screaming at her. Grant laughing with Miranda. Grant walking out the door without a backward glance. And now Grant on a stretcher, dying or close to it. I didn't want him dead, she gasped, panic rising in her throat. Rowan, I swear I never wanted. No one said you did, Rowan answered firmly. But the terror inside her spiraled faster. What if Miranda blames me? What if they twist this? What if someone planted something to make it look like? Her voice broke into sobs. I can't survive another accusation. I can't do this again. The room blurred. Everything felt too loud, too close, too heavy. She clutched her stomach, feeling the baby shift in distress as her panic spiked. Rows of cruel comments from social media flashed before her eyes. Grant yelling that she was unstable. Her parents choosing to believe him. Martin Keene threatening legal action. The fake video. The debts. The knocks at the door. And now a potential felony accusation hanging over her head. It was too much. Her chest tightened violently, pain lancing across her ribs. She doubled forward with a sharp cry. Elena? Rowan's voice rose, cracking with urgency. Elena, stay with me. I can't. Her breath stuttered, shallow and rapid. I can't breathe. Rowan lowered her gently to the floor, supporting her head as Tyler Brandt backed away in horror. Oh God, I didn't mean to scare her. Call emergency services, Rowan ordered him. Now. But before Tyler could dial, another wave of pain ripped through Elena's abdomen, far stronger than before. Her eyes blew wide with terror. The baby, Rowan, something's wrong. He cupped her face, grounding her as sirens wailed faintly somewhere in the distance. It's gonna be okay, he said, though fear flickered in his own eyes. I'm right here, I'm not leaving. But Elena's vision darkened at the edges. And the last thing she heard before her consciousness slipped was Rowan shouting her name as blood began to pool beneath her. Elena woke to the sterile hum of fluorescent lights and the distant beeping of machines. Her eyelids felt heavy, as if weighted down by weeks of exhaustion. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling swam, blurring into soft white shapes. Then the faint antiseptic smell hit her, and everything snapped back into place. The panic, the pain, the blood. Her hand flew to her stomach. Before she could speak, a warm voice cut through the haze. You're okay. The baby's okay. Rowan sat beside her hospital bed, his suit jacket draped over the chair, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled. He looked nothing like the immaculate billionaire the world knew. He looked like a man who hadn't slept, who'd stayed by her side through every minute of the night. Elena's throat tightened. How long? 6 hours, he said softly. You lost a lot of blood. They were worried about placental abrasion, but they stabilized everything. Emotion crashed through her. Relief, fear, confusion. I thought I was going to lose the baby. You didn't, he whispered. You fought through it. A tear slid down her cheek. Rowan reached for her hand, not forceful, not assuming, just offering. She didn't pull away, but before she could ask more, the door opened. A doctor stepped inside, holding a folder. Miss Marlowe, I'm Dr. Hensley. We ran additional tests while you were unconscious. There's something you need to know. Elena stiffened. Is something wrong with the baby? No, Dr. Hensley said gently. Your baby appears strong, but the situation surrounding your collapse wasn't just stress. Rowan's jaw clenched. What do you mean? The doctor flipped through the file. We found traces of a sedative in your bloodstream, not strong enough to knock you out immediately, but enough to weaken your system, enough to cause dizziness and trigger what happened. Elena's breath caught. Sedative? I haven't taken anything. Rowan straightened in his chair, tension slicing through his normally calm exterior. Could it have been in her food? Her water? Dr. Hensley hesitated. More likely, something given directly, ingested or slipped into a drink. Elena stared at him, horrified. Are you saying someone drugged me? We can't confirm intent, the doctor said, but based on your levels, it wasn't accidental. The room fell into an icy silence. Then Rowan spoke, voice low and lethal. Grant? Elena's eyes widened. No, he wouldn't. He's awful, but he wouldn't drug me. Even as she said it, she wasn't sure. Grant had crossed 1,000 lines she once thought impossible, but the doctor wasn't finished. There's something else. We received an alert from the police because of the sedative findings, and because someone filed a report claiming you threatened Grant earlier this week, there's an open inquiry. Elena's head whipped toward him. What? I never. Rowan's expression snapped into something fierce and protective. Who filed the report? The doctor checked the notes. A woman named Miranda Hale. Elena's stomach dropped. Of course it was her. Miranda had power, influence, and the appetite of a shark. Setting Elena up would be effortless. Suddenly, the events of the past day clicked into place like jagged puzzle pieces. The fake video, the sudden smear campaign, Grant in the hospital, now the sedative in Elena's bloodstream. Miranda positioning her as violent and unstable. Rowan leaned close, his voice a low vow. She's framing you. She wants you out of the way. Elena trembled. But why? I'm nobody. No, Rowan said, eyes burning with intensity. You're the biggest threat to her plans, because you know the truth about Grant, and because destroying you hurts him. Before she could respond, Tyler Brandt, the terrified intern from earlier, burst into the doorway, pale and breathless. Mr. Thorne, Ms. Marlowe, there's more, he panted. Miranda just made a public statement. Rowan rose to his feet. What did she say? Tyler's voice shook. She's blaming Elena for Grant's overdose. And she has evidence. Elena's heart stopped as Tyler whispered, She claims you sent the drug drink. For several long seconds, Elena couldn't breathe. The words hung in the air like a blade suspended above her throat. She claims you sent the drug drink. Tyler's voice wavered as he continued. Miranda posted security footage from Hale Financial. It shows a delivery bag with your name on it arriving at Grant's office the day before he overdosed. Elena shook her head violently. No, I didn't send anything. I haven't seen him in weeks. Her voice cracked, collapsing under the weight of fear. Rowan, I didn't do this. You don't have to convince me, Rowan said instantly. His voice was steel, his eyes colder than Manhattan winter. Miranda fabricated it. That footage is staged. Tyler nodded quickly. I believe that too. The timestamp looks wrong, and the delivery label? It's printed, not handwritten. But the media won't care. The story is spreading, fast. A wave of dizziness washed over Elena. If the world believed she poisoned Grant, if the police believed it, her baby, her life, everything could be taken. I can't survive this, she whispered. They're making me into a criminal. They won't stop until I'm in jail or dead. Rowan stepped closer, kneeling beside the hospital bed. Look at me. She didn't. He gently lifted her chin. Look at me. Her frightened eyes met his steady ones. You are done running? Rowan said, voice low and powerful. You are done apologizing for another person's crimes. From this moment forward you fight, and you will not fight alone. Something warm, something fierce flickered inside her chest, small but present, a spark. But how? She whispered. They have everything. Money, power, influence. Rowan's lips curled into a hard, almost dangerous smile. So do I. Tyler cleared his throat timidly. Miss Marlowe, I brought something else. Evidence. Real evidence. I didn't know who to trust, so I came to you. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket, hands shaking. Miranda has been planning Grant's downfall for months. I overheard her. She wanted full control of the Hale Fund. Grant was expendable, and she needed someone to pin his collapse on. Me, Elena breathed. Yes, Tyler whispered. She said the narrative of the unstable ex-wife was perfect leverage. She already had the fake footage prepared. Rowan took the USB with a nod of approval. You did the right thing coming here. Tyler swallowed nervously. But Miranda is more dangerous than you think. She hired a private investigator to track Elena. She knows where you work, where you live. She even knows your prenatal appointment schedule. Elena's blood ran cold. Rowan's jaw tightened. She wants to corner Elena, force her into a panic, and then she'll use that panic as proof, Elena finished shakily. The doctor knocked softly before entering. Miss Marlowe, you need rest. Stress levels this high can trigger complications. You should stay here a few more hours. But Elena shook her head. If I stay here, I'm a sitting target. Rowan rose to his full height. She's not staying here. I'm moving her somewhere safe. Safe? Elena echoed. Where is safe from Miranda Hale? Rowan's eyes softened, not with pity, but with certainty. My penthouse, he said quietly. It has private security, restricted entry, and surveillance I control. No one gets near you unless I say so. Elena stared at him. Rowan, that's too much. I can't ask. You didn't ask, he said. I offered. For a moment she struggled to process it. The protection, the certainty in his voice, the weight of someone finally standing for her without hesitation. Something in her cracked open, releasing a breath she'd held for too long. Tyler glanced between them nervously. Miranda won't back down. She'll escalate. She always escalates. Rowan placed a reassuring hand on Elena's shoulder. Then she's about to learn what happens when she pushes someone who has nothing left to lose, and someone unimaginably powerful standing beside her. And for the first time in months, Elena felt the first quiet stirrings of strength return to her bones. Night settled over Manhattan like a velvet curtain, the kind that softened city noise but amplified the tension pulsing in Elena's chest. Rowan's black Mercedes eased through the underground entrance of his Park Avenue tower, a private access point reserved for foreign dignitaries, CEOs, and people who needed to slip through the world unseen. Tonight, Elena was one of them. The minute the elevator doors slid open to Rowan's penthouse level, she felt the shift, the quiet luxury, the height, the stillness. Floor-to-ceiling windows held the entire Manhattan skyline like a glowing painting. Soft lighting reflected off pristine marble floors. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a sanctuary carved away from the chaos below. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. I shouldn't be here. Rowan keyed in a security code and turned to her. You should be somewhere you won't be hunted. Hunted, she echoed, the word sounding foreign and terrifying. Rowan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Miranda Hale drugged your drink. She staged evidence. She filed a false report, and now she's pushing to frame you for attempted murder. His jaw hardened. This isn't petty jealousy. This is calculated annihilation. A tremor ran through her body. She looked down at her belly. Why? Why me? I'm not important enough for this. Rowan inhaled slowly. Because you're the cleanest story. The most believable target. A pregnant ex-wife with so-called emotional instability, the public swallows that narrative whole. But I've never touched drugs. I've never even. I know. His tone softened, but his eyes remained cold with determination. And now we show the world who really belongs behind bars. Before she could respond, a sharp chime came from Rowan's phone. His gaze narrowed. It's starting. What's starting? Elena asked. He tapped the screen and handed the phone to her. A breaking news segment filled the display. A reporter stood outside Hale Financial, lights flashing behind her as cameras captured police entering the building. Sources confirm Miranda Hale is now under investigation for insider manipulation and potential involvement in the overdose of Grant Sutherland. Elena's breath halted. What? What happened? Tyler Brandt's voice echoed from behind them. He had followed Rowan up quietly, tension stiffening his shoulders. Those files I gave you, they weren't just plans. They were financial footprints. She's been laundering money through shell companies. Someone tipped the SEC anonymously. Elena blinked. Someone? Rowan didn't flinch. Me. She stared at him. But you just got the evidence today. I had enough before, he said simply. But the USB gave me the final thread to pull. The reporter continued. Miranda Hale denies all accusations, claiming she is being sabotaged by jealous adversaries. However, investigators have located irregularities tied to the night of Sutherland's overdose. Another clip flashed, security footage. Miranda herself leaving Grant's condo the night he collapsed. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," Tyler whispered. "She wasn't supposed to be in that frame. She miscalculated and now it's blowing up." Rowan folded his arms. "You're watching someone at the top of the food chain realize she's suddenly prey." Elena shivered. "But if she falls, what happens next?" Rowan looked at her for a long, steady moment. "Next is your turn." She frowned. "My turn?" He nodded. "To reclaim your name, your dignity, your future. We'll hold a press statement tomorrow morning. My legal team will walk you through every detail." "Press," she whispered, panic rising. "Rowan, I don't think I—" "You can," he said firmly, "because you're not standing alone anymore." She inhaled shakily, resting a hand on her stomach. Her baby kicked softly, a reminder of what she was fighting for. A soft vibration broke the silence. Rowan's phone again. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "What is it?" Elena asked. Rowan held the phone toward her. A message from an unknown number. "If she speaks publicly, the baby won't make it." Elena's blood turned to ice, and Rowan's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Miranda isn't going down quietly." The threatening message glowed on Rowan's phone like a poison, sharp, cold, and meant to paralyze. "If she speaks publicly, the baby won't make it." Elena's breath snagged in her chest. Her fingers curled instinctively over her belly, as if her touch alone could shield her child from an enemy who didn't even need to show her face to terrify her. For a moment, her vision blurred. The room seemed to tilt. Her heart kicked against her ribs with painful force. Rowan stepped forward immediately, his presence grounding her like an anchor thrown into a violent sea. "Elena, look at me." She lifted her gaze, barely holding herself together. "That message isn't a prophecy," he said, voice low and calm. "It's desperation. Miranda is cornered. She's trying to scare you into silence. That means she's weaker than you think." "Weaker?" she whispered. "Rowan, she has power I can't even imagine." "Power isn't real when it's built on lies," he answered. Tyler Brandt lingered near the windows, watching the city lights flicker with nerves. "Miss Marlowe." "Miranda's in panic mode. I've worked there long enough to know the signs. When she feels something slipping, she goes for shock tactics. But she doesn't actually follow through. She threatens, she manipulates. But physical harm?" He swallowed. "She hires people for that. She never does it herself." "That's not comforting," Elena murmured, wrapping her arms tighter around herself. Rowan motioned her to sit on the cream-colored couch overlooking the skyline. "You're safe here. There are armed guards downstairs, biometric locks, and security trained to stop a threat before it gets anywhere near you." "But what if she goes after me at the press conference?" Elena asked. Or plan something else. What if she twists my words? What if?" "You won't be alone on that stage," Rowan said. "You'll stand with me, my legal team, and the evidence. The world will hear the truth from both of us." Elena blinked. "Both of us?" He nodded. "I'm making a statement too. I'm calling out her manipulation publicly." "Rowan, that could ruin your business." He lifted one brow. "Elena, I've survived things far more dangerous than a corrupt finance mogul, and my company doesn't crumble under the weight of truth." A silence settled, heavy but strangely warm. She looked at him, really looked at him, his steady eyes, his calm strength, his unwavering presence. "Why?" she whispered. "Why put yourself at risk for me? You barely know me." Rowan inhaled, as if choosing his words carefully. "I've watched people like Miranda destroy lives because no one stood up to them. Not this time." His voice softened. "And I don't need years to see who you are, Elena. I've seen enough." Her cheeks warmed, and she dropped her gaze, overwhelmed by emotions she wasn't ready to name. Tyler cleared his throat. "Mr. Thorne, if I may, there's something else you should know. Miranda doesn't just want to control Hale Financial. She wants to control the narrative around Grant's overdose. If Elena speaks, Miranda risks exposure. That threat message, that's her last card." Rowan nodded. "Then tomorrow morning, we take the deck from her." Elena exhaled slowly, feeling the smallest thread of courage stitch itself back into her chest. She wasn't brave, yet. She wasn't strong, yet. But she was no longer drowning. "I'll do it," she whispered. "The press conference. I'll tell the truth." Rowan's features softened into something proud. "Good. But before he could say more, Elena's phone buzzed violently on the coffee table, an unknown number flashing across the screen. Her stomach clenched. Rowan picked it up before she could touch it. He answered. "This is Thorne." A slow female voice slithered through the speaker. "Well then, I suppose I'm talking to the wrong person." Rowan stiffened. "Miranda." Elena's heart thudded painfully. Miranda's voice sharpened. "If Elena opens her mouth tomorrow, I promise you, she won't make it to the second question." Miranda's voice seeped from the phone like venom, smooth, slow, sharpened by the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged. "If Elena opens her mouth tomorrow, I promise you, she won't make it to the second question." Rowan didn't flinch. "You're done threatening her." Miranda chuckled softly. "Threatening? Rowan, darling, I'm warning you. There's a difference." Elena's heart pounded so hard she felt it in her throat. She leaned closer, clutching a pillow against her stomach as if it were armor. Rowan put the phone on speaker, letting Miranda's poison fill the room openly. No hiding, no shadows. "Tell me," Miranda continued, "how far are you willing to go to protect a woman who was never worth the trouble?" Her tone dripped false sweetness. A poor, unstable ex-wife dragging her unborn child into chaos. "Enough," Rowan cut her off, voice sharper than steel. "If anything happens to Elena or the baby, you'll answer for it in court, in the media, and in every legal channel I can reach." "You think courts scare me?" Miranda laughed. "Money buys silence. Fear buys loyalty. I have both." Tyler, hovering by the window, flinched. "That's exactly how she talks to her employees," he whispered. "No one ever pushes back." Rowan didn't give Miranda an inch. "Your empire is collapsing. Investigators have found your signatures on the shell accounts. The footage shows you at Grant's building the night he overdosed. You're losing control, and now you're lashing out." "Am I?" Miranda's voice thinned. "Sweetheart, you don't know how deep this goes. Grant was a pawn. Elena is a distraction. But you, Rowan," her voice curled with something darker, "you're the obstacle." Rowan's jaw tightened. "And you are the criminal." A beat of silence, cold, calculated. Then Miranda said quietly, "You should check your inbox." The call disconnected. Rowan opened his email immediately. Elena leaned forward, dread rising like smoke. When the screen lit up, she felt her stomach drop. Photos. Hundreds of them. All of her. Leaving work, entering her old apartment, walking alone at night, sitting at a park bench crying, even inside the hospital lobby earlier that day. Every angle, every moment. Every vulnerability captured and catalogued. Elena's voice cracked. "She's been watching me." Tyler looked sick. "She has a private surveillance team. She uses them to intimidate donors, investors, anyone who crosses her." Rowan scrolled further. More images. One of them showed Elena talking to a coworker, cropped to look like an argument. Another looked like she was handing over money, though in reality she'd been giving a homeless man her leftovers. Another, the most damning, showed her near Grant's building, except it was from 2 years ago, long before the divorce. Miranda had every piece of Elena's life ready to twist. Elena's hands trembled violently. "Rowan, she can destroy me with these." "No," Rowan said instantly. "She can't, because now the world knows she's capable of staging things. These images lose power when the source is corrupt." "But she'll use them anyway," Elena whispered. "And people will believe her. They always believe her." Rowan stepped closer, placing a steady hand on her back. "Elena, you have me. You have evidence. You have witnesses. And after tomorrow you'll have the public. Everything she does from now on only proves she's guilty." Elena nodded, but her breath was shaky. Tyler approached hesitantly. "Miss Marlowe, Miranda's losing control. That's when she becomes reckless. And reckless Miranda is dangerous." A moment of heavy silence filled the penthouse. Then Rowan turned to both of them. "Tomorrow morning, we go on the offensive. No fear, no hesitation. Elena speaks first. I follow, and the full truth goes out." Elena swallowed. "And if Miranda attacks again?" Rowan's expression hardened into something lethal. "Then she learns," he said quietly, "that threatening you was the last mistake she'll ever make." But then, a sudden knock echoed from the private elevator doors. A knock that wasn't supposed to be possible. Not without Rowan's clearance. Elena's blood ran cold. Rowan stepped in front of her instantly, as a shadow moved behind the frosted glass, and someone forced the elevator doors open from the inside. The private elevator wasn't supposed to open without Rowan's biometric authorization. Not even his executives, not even security, could override it. which meant one terrifying thing. Whoever was forcing the door had clearance. Rowan moved fast, silent, controlled, dangerous, placing himself fully between Elena and the elevator entrance. Tyler backed into the corner, pale as chalk. Elena clutched the armrest of the sofa, heart pounding against her ribs, breath shallow with fear. A metallic groan echoed through the penthouse as the elevator doors finally slid apart. A tall woman in a tailored navy suit stepped out, heels sharp as blades clicking against the marble floor. Perfect posture. Silver blonde hair pulled into a sleek twist. Eyes like frosted glass, cold, piercing, and unmistakably powerful. Elena didn't recognize her. Rowan did, his jaw locked. Mother. Elena's gasp caught in her throat. This was Eleanor Thorne, CEO of Thorne International, billionaire, and one of the most feared corporate strategists in America. A woman known for dismantling boardrooms the way storms dismantled coastlines. If Miranda Hale was a wolf, Eleanor Thorne was the quiet, patient lioness who didn't need to roar to kill. Eleanor scanned the room with a single sweeping glance. Tyler stiffened. Rowan stood taller. Her gaze finally landed on Elena, assessing, calculating, but not unkind. Just sharp. Well, she said coolly, I see things have escalated. Rowan stepped forward, tension rippling beneath his suit. How did you get access? Eleanor arched an eyebrow. I built this building, Rowan. Do not insult me with the question. Elena swallowed hard. She'd expected hostility, condemnation, a powerful mother ready to drag her son away from the scandal-ridden pregnant woman hiding in his penthouse. Instead, Eleanor walked calmly toward her, maintaining the regal stillness of someone used to walking into chaos and restoring order with a single breath. You must be Elena Marlowe, she said. Elena stiffened. Yes, ma'am. Eleanor studied her face, not with disdain, but with startling clarity. You look like you haven't slept in days. Elena blinked, unsure what to say. Rowan stepped closer. Mother, this is not your concern. You're wrong, Eleanor replied. It became my concern when the SEC called me asking why my son's name is tied to an unfolding financial scandal. Her gaze flicked toward Tyler. And when one of my analysts told me Miranda Hale is building a case around a pregnant woman she thinks is disposable. Elena lowered her eyes. Disposable. The word stung, but Eleanor continued. I came because if Miranda is targeting you, she's underestimating the wrong family. Elena's head snapped up. She hadn't expected this. Not support, not protection. Not from a woman with enough influence to crush media, courts, and billionaires alike. Rowan frowned. You're getting involved? I don't like bullies, Eleanor said simply. And Miranda Hale has been one for far too long. Tyler exhaled shakily, almost collapsing with relief. Eleanor turned to her son. I've reviewed the evidence, the forged footage, the staged delivery label, the private surveillance she placed on Ms. Marlowe. She paused. Miranda is committing federal crimes. We know, Rowan said sharply, and tomorrow morning we'll expose her. Eleanor tilted her head. No, not tomorrow. Everyone froze. Tonight, Eleanor continued calmly, before she has time to regroup. Elena's pulse quickened. Tonight? But I'm not ready. I haven't even... Eleanor's expression softened, an unexpected warmth beneath her icy exterior. Dear, when someone threatens your life and your child, you don't give them the courtesy of waiting. You take back control immediately. Rowan studied his mother, then nodded slowly. She's right. Eleanor approached Elena, lowering her voice. Miranda Hale is powerful, but not invincible. Women like her crumble when the truth hits them faster than their lies can spread. She placed a reassuring hand on Elena's shoulder. You speak tonight, with me standing beside you. Elena's breath caught. This wasn't just backup. This wasn't just protection. This was an alliance with one of the most dangerous strategic women in the country. Rowan stepped beside Elena, his presence warm and steady. Are you ready? Was she? Her future, her child, her name, all of it balanced on this moment. Elena rose to her feet, voice trembling but determined. Yes, I'm ready. But before they could leave, a thunderous explosion of glass shattered through the penthouse window, sending shards flying as a masked figure stepped inside with a gun raised. Glass exploded inward like a rain of jagged diamonds. A violent gust of winter wind tore through the penthouse as a masked figure climbed through the shattered window frame. The gun in his hand gleamed beneath the city lights, its barrel rising, aiming straight at Elena. Rowan surged forward instantly. Get back! Eleanor grabbed Elena's arm and pulled her behind a marble column as Tyler dove for cover near the kitchen island. The masked intruder stepped fully onto the marble floor, moving with swift, professional precision. Not a petty criminal, not a panicked amateur, a hired hitman. Elena's breath froze in her lungs. The intruder advanced, gun trained directly where she'd stood seconds earlier. "Miss Marlowe," he called out, voice distorted by a vocal modulator. "Come out. You don't need to suffer. The baby doesn't need to suffer. Quick and clean, that's the deal." Elena trembled violently, clutching her stomach. She couldn't even form words. Rowan moved like a force of nature, staying between the threat and the column shielding Elena. "You won't touch her." The hitman laughed, a chilling, metallic distortion. "Thorne, I was told you'd interfere. Consider this a courtesy warning. Step aside and you get to live." Eleanor Thorne stepped forward, slow, calm, terrifyingly composed. "Do you know who you're pointing that weapon at?" The masked man chuckled. "Yes, a woman who ruined her son." Eleanor's eyes narrowed, cold fire. "I built entire empires while men like you were still learning how to tie your boots. Put the weapon down and I might consider you merely stupid instead of suicidal." He pointed the gun at her instead. Rowan's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "You just made your last mistake." The hitman pulled the trigger. Elena screamed, but the bullet never touched anyone. A thunderous crack split the air as Rowan slammed into the man from the side. The shot veered off, hitting a column, spraying stone dust everywhere. The two men crashed to the floor, Rowan fighting with brutal precision, the hitman countering with practiced, deadly force. "Stay behind me," Eleanor shouted, dragging Elena farther from the struggle. Tyler frantically grabbed his phone, hands shaking as he dialed security. Rowan blocked a second shot, knocking the gun across the floor. The hitman threw a punch, smashing Rowan across the cheek. Rowan retaliated, slamming his elbow into the man's ribs. "Rowan!" Elena cried, watching in horror as the fight turned vicious, two shadows twisting together in a blur of fists, knees, and brutal intent. The hitman managed to reach the gun again, his gloved fingers brushing the metal. Rowan lunged. Too late. The man grabbed the weapon, swung it toward him. Eleanor moved first. With startling speed, she snatched the heavy crystal vase from a side table and hurled it. It struck the hitman square across the skull. The sound was sickening. He crumpled instantly, gun clattering across the marble. Silence. Elena collapsed against the column, sobbing in shock. Tyler fell to his knees, shaking uncontrollably as security stormed inside through the private elevator, weapons drawn. Two guards restrained the intruder, zip-tying his hands behind him. Another checked the perimeter. Rowan staggered to his feet, blood at his lip, breath heavy. He turned instantly to Elena. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. He almost. He rushed to her, pulling her into his arms, holding her tightly as if anchoring her to the ground. "I'm here. You're safe. I'm here." Eleanor stepped forward, straightening her suit jacket as if she hadn't just saved a life with a thrown vase. "We need to move. Now. This proves Miranda Hale has crossed the final line, from fraud to attempted murder." Elena shivered violently. "She wants me dead." "Yes," Eleanor answered without softening it, "and that's exactly why we strike first." Rowan cupped Elena's face gently. "We leave in 15 minutes. You speak tonight, the world hears everything." Elena wiped her tears, breath still trembling. But something had shifted. Terror wasn't the only emotion left inside her now. There was fire. And as the hitman was dragged away, Elena whispered, "She tried to end my life. Now I'll end her lies." By the time they arrived at the private media hall inside Thorne International's headquarters, Elena felt the weight of the world pressing against her ribcage. The building stood like a fortress on Park Avenue, towering glass, immaculate marble, and security so tight it felt like entering another realm entirely. But the moment she stepped through the private entrance, she sensed it. Tonight, she wasn't the hunted one. Tonight, she was the storm about to break open. Rows of reporters filled the auditorium, dozens of them, buzzing with tension. Cameras were already pointed at the sleek podium set beneath a massive Thorne International emblem. Light rigs cast a warm glow over the front row, where whispers rippled like wind through wheat. Some had doubt painted across their faces. Others held the hungry anticipation of journalists sensing a scandal about to explode. Eleanor Thorne walked beside Elena, posture regal, her expression carved from steel. Rowan followed closely, one hand firmly supporting Elena's lower back, steady, grounding, unmistakably protective. "You don't have to do this alone," Rowan murmured. "I know," Elena whispered, "but I have to be the one to speak." Eleanor turned slightly, assessing her with sharp blue eyes. "You will speak only the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. The truth is enough to burn Miranda Hale to ash." Elena swallowed, nodding. Backstage, Tyler Brandt fidgeted anxiously with a stack of printed evidence. "Everything's ready. Miranda's forged footage, the real timestamps, her shell accounts, surveillance logs showing she hired outside contractors, and a statement confirming no trace of poison ever linked to Elena." Elena flinched at the word poison, hand instinctively hovering over her stomach. Rowan gently brushed her arm. "We're here. Every step." A voice over the speakers announced, "Press briefing beginning in 1 minute." The room shifted instantly, cameras adjusting, reporters straightening. A murmur spread like wildfire. Eleanor stepped forward, facing Elena directly. "Listen to me," she said quietly. "Miranda underestimated you because she thought you were weak, fearful, alone." Eleanor paused. "But fear can forge steel. You are stronger than you know." For the first time since her nightmare began, Elena believed it. Rowan offered his hand. "Ready?" "Yes," she breathed. "More than I ever thought I could be." The curtains parted. A wave of camera flashes erupted, bright, blinding, relentless. Reporters surged forward with questions like arrows. "Miss Marlowe, are you involved in the Sutherland overdose? Did you send the drink found at Grant's office? Is it true you're being investigated for attempted poisoning? Why is Rowan Thorne defending you? Are you two in a relationship?" Rowan stepped forward, shielding Elena from the barrage. Eleanor approached the podium first, commanding silence with nothing but presence. Within seconds, the room quieted. "My name," she announced, "is Eleanor Thorne, and tonight I stand beside a woman who has been hunted, framed, and nearly killed by Miranda Hale." Cameras flickered like lightning. Elena stepped forward. Her knees wobbled, but her voice didn't. "My name is Elena Marlowe," she said, her tone trembling but clear. "And everything you've heard about me, every rumor, every lie, every staged piece of footage, came from one woman trying to protect herself." She paused. The silence grew heavy. Pain flashed through her, but also strength. "I never poisoned Grant Sutherland," she continued. "I never sent him anything. I never threatened him. He forged loans under my name. Miranda Hale orchestrated a smear campaign to make me look unstable, dangerous, and violent, because she needed a scapegoat." She held up the USB evidence Tyler had given her. "And this proves everything." Gasps erupted as screens behind her lit up. Real footage, real timestamps, Miranda entering Grant's building, Miranda meeting the hitman she hired, Miranda signing illegal transfers. Elena's voice settled into something deeper, something unbreakable. "She tried to ruin my name. She tried to destroy my future. She tried to take my child." Her hand gently rested on her belly. "But she failed." A roar of murmurs filled the hall. Shock, outrage, disbelief. Rowan stepped beside her, placing a hand over hers. Eleanor remained stone still, a silent guardian. As the room erupted, a security guard rushed in from the side, whispering urgently to another officer. The officer turned pale. Rowan noticed instantly. "What happened?" The guard swallowed hard. "Sir, Miranda Hale just escaped federal custody." For a moment, the room felt hollow, like every ounce of air had been sucked out of it. Reporters froze mid-sentence. Cameras stopped clicking. Even Eleanor Thorne's unshakable composure flickered. Miranda Hale had escaped. Rowan was the first to break the silence. "How?" The security officer swallowed hard, clearly shaken. "She was being transported to a federal holding site. The convoy was intercepted 2 blocks from Hale Financial. 3 masked individuals disabled the escort vehicle and extracted her." Tyler's face drained of color. 3? She has her own private security force. I told you, she plans for everything." Elena's pulse hammered beneath her skin. "Is she coming here?" "Unlikely," the officer replied. "The building is a fortress, but she'll go after the weakest point." Rowan stiffened instantly. "Your apartment." Elena's knees nearly buckled. "My things, my documents, my baby's ultrasound photos." "Forget the belongings," Rowan said firmly. "If she thinks you might return there for anything, she'll wait." Eleanor stepped forward, voice cutting across the room like a blade. "Miranda Hale knows she's finished. When cornered, people like her stop thinking rationally. And become dangerous, Tyler whispered. Elena felt Rowan's hand take hers, grounding her. You are not leaving my sight, not for a second. Before she could respond, a journalist shouted from the front row, Miss Marlowe with Miranda Hale escaped. Do you fear retaliation? Rowan snapped. No more questions. But Elena squeezed his hand gently and stepped forward. Her voice trembled only faintly. I fear nothing she does anymore. She spent months trying to break me. Tonight, I told the truth, and the truth survives longer than any threat. Flashbulbs exploded. Reporters murmured intensely, energy shifting from suspicion to awe. But another officer rushed in, breathless. Mr. Epthorne, we received confirmation. Miranda's last known location was your building. Elena's heart stopped. Your penthouse? No. The officer's jaw tightened. Lower level, near the private garages. Rowan reacted instantly. We need to move, now. Eleanor raised a commanding hand. No running. That's exactly what she wants. We stick to controlled evacuation. Security will sweep each level. Miranda thrives in chaos, so we eliminate chaos. But Tyler, trembling, whispered, she's not coming for Elena's belongings. She's coming for leverage. Rowan turned sharply. What leverage? Tyler hesitated, then spoke the truth he'd been too afraid to say aloud. Miranda knows something. Something you don't want public, Mr. Thorne. Rowan's face hardened. What are you talking about? Tyler swallowed. Your past. Your father's final deal. The one hushed up. Miranda got her hands on documents months ago. She always said if she couldn't beat you at business, she'd beat you with your own secrets. Eleanor's eyes snapped to Rowan. Is this true? Rowan's jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. It doesn't matter. It matters, Elena said softly, stepping closer. For the first time since she'd met him, Rowan looked vulnerable. A crack in the armor, a shadow of something old, heavy, unspoken. But there was no time to unravel it. An explosion of static burst through the overhead speakers. The giant screens on stage flickered, then distorted into a grainy feed. A woman's silhouette appeared. Miranda. Her voice crackled through the sound system, serpentine and mocking. Well done, Elena. You really thought you won? Her laugh was low, unhinged. I told you, if you opened your mouth, things would get ugly. The camera feed zoomed out slowly. Miranda was standing in Rowan's penthouse. Elena gasped. On the screen, Miranda smiled and held something up between two gloved fingers. A sonogram photo. Elena's sonogram photo. Such a precious little souvenir, Miranda purred. Don't worry, I'll keep it warm for you. Elena staggered backward. Rowan caught her, fury burning through him. Tyler whispered, horrified, that means she bypassed all security. She could still be inside the building. Miranda leaned close to the camera, whispering, You want your life back, Elena? Then come get it. I'll be waiting. The screen went black. Elena's breath shattered. Her hand flew to her belly. Rowan whispered fiercely, She touched your home. She touched your child. This ends tonight. Elena felt the world tilt beneath her feet. The image of Miranda holding her sonogram burned into her vision like a brand. Rowan steadied her, but his hands trembled, something she'd never seen before. Not from fear, but from fury so sharp it hummed beneath his skin. Eleanor Thorne was already issuing commands to security, her voice slicing through the chaos like a general on a battlefield. Lock down floors 20 through 35. Seal every garage exit. Nobody leaves this building without my clearance. Yes, ma'am, officers replied, scrambling into coordinated movement. But Elena barely heard them. All she could see was the grainy feet of Miranda inside Rowan's home, the one place she'd felt truly safe. The place where she'd slept without nightmares for the first time in months. The place that now felt violated. Rowan, Elena whispered, voice breaking. She touched my sonogram. She touched my baby's picture. That means she went through my things. My clothes, my purse. Rowan cupped her face gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. Listen to me. Miranda did this to provoke you. She wants you terrified. She wants you impulsive. She wants you to run to her. Of course she does, Eleanor said sharply. Miranda wants leverage, and a terrified woman is the easiest hostage. Elena's chest tightened. Hostage? Tyler nodded stiffly. That's how she gains control when she's desperate. When she went after Grant, she cornered him first. She made sure he was isolated. Elena felt nausea rise. Isolation. That word had defined her life for months. Rowan took her hand, gripping it firmly. You are not going to her. She wants you to show up alone. She wants to control the narrative again, but she's not the one in control anymore. Elena shook her head, tears threatening. But she has my things, my baby's picture. We'll retrieve everything, he promised. But safely, with a team. A security captain approached, breathless. We have a visual on Hale. Cameras show her on the penthouse balcony. She hasn't attempted to leave yet. Eleanor exhaled sharply. She's cornering herself. Good. But Elena didn't feel relief. Something tugged at her chest, an instinct sharper than fear. She's not just waiting, Elena whispered. She's planning something. Tyler's eyes widened. She might have another accomplice in the building. Eleanor nodded grimly. We move now. Rowan straightened fully, slipping into a controlled, deadly calm, a version of himself Elena had only glimpsed before. He turned to two guards. Escort Miss Marlowe to the secured boardroom. She doesn't leave until I say. Elena jerked back. No, Rowan, please. Don't shut me away while she does God knows what. Rowan's voice softened. I'm not shutting you away, I'm protecting you. Miranda will use your fear against you, and I can't fight if I'm worried about you being in the line of fire. Elena's chin trembled. Then let me stay behind you. Rowan froze. Eleanor stepped in. She wants to be involved, she said quietly. And she should be. Miranda is obsessed with her. Removing Elena from the equation could make Miranda even more unpredictable. Rowan looked at Elena again, really looked at her, at the fear, at the determination beneath it, at the woman who had endured humiliation, lies, betrayal, attempted murder, and was still standing. He exhaled slowly. You stay behind me. You do not move unless I tell you. Understood? Elena nodded. Tyler grabbed the evidence bag and stepped closer. I'm coming too. I've seen what she's capable of. No, Rowan said. You stay with my mother. But Eleanor shook her head. No, Tyler is the only person who knows the extent of Miranda's patterns. He comes. Rowan hesitated, then accepted it. Security formed a tight circle, guiding them toward the private elevator that led back to the penthouse levels. The ride was slow, too slow. Every second a tightening coil in Elena's chest. When the doors opened, a gust of cold air rushed in, the shattered window letting the icy night pour into the hall. And there, silhouetted against the city lights, stood Miranda Hale. Calm, smiling, holding Elena's sonogram between two fingers like a trophy. Miranda tilted her head and whispered, You came. Miranda stood in the jagged frame of broken glass, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind her like a crown she believed she owned. The icy wind whipped her hair across her face, but she didn't flinch. She held Elena's sonogram delicately, almost mockingly, like she was admiring a piece of art she planned to destroy. Rowan positioned himself immediately in front of Elena, one arm stretched protectively across her. Security fanned out behind them, but Miranda didn't move. She simply smiled, that cold, surgically precise curl of lips she was famous for. Well, Miranda purred, this is touching. The whole family came. Her gaze flicked from Eleanor to Tyler, then landed on Elena. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Elena felt her heart slam into her ribs. Give it back, she whispered, voice shaking. Miranda lifted the sonogram higher. This symbolism is so powerful, isn't it? A fragile life, a fragile woman, a fragile reputation. She smirked. Break any one of them, and everything shatters. Rowan stepped forward, voice deadly calm. One step closer to her, Miranda, and you won't walk out of here. Miranda laughed, throwing her head back. Oh, Rowan. Always so dramatic. But you're late. I already won. Eleanor stepped beside her son, eyes sharp enough to cut steel. You've lost everything. The evidence is public. The investigators are on their way. You're finished. Miranda tilted her head, her smile widening. Finished? Eleanor, darling, I'm just getting started. You think evidence scares me? You think prison scares me? Her voice lowered into a hiss. I only fear irrelevance. Tyler stepped forward, hands shaking. Miranda, stop. Please. It's over. The SEC knows. The investigators have your signed transfers. They found the contract with the hitman. Miranda whipped toward him with a venomous glare. You traitor. Tyler stumbled backward, but Rowan grabbed his arm, steadying him. Miranda's attention snapped back to Elena. You ruined Grant. You ruined me. Before you crawled into my life, everything was perfect. Elena swallowed hard. I didn't ruin anything. Grant destroyed himself. And you. Miranda cut her off with a sharp laugh. Oh, sweetheart. Still clinging to your innocence? Let me tell you a secret before the world learns it. She stepped closer to the shattered window, the wind whipping around her like a storm. Grant didn't overdose by accident, she whispered. Everyone froze. Even the wind seemed to pause. Rowan's voice dropped to a warning growl. "Miranda, don't." But she lifted a finger, shushing him theatrically. "Grant overdosed 'cause I gave him the pills," she said calmly. "He threatened to expose me. He threatened my empire, so I fed him his own greed, wrapped in a little white capsule." Elena felt her stomach lurch. You killed him?" "Kill?" Miranda shrugged. "Such a harsh word. I accelerated the inevitable." Eleanor's voice was ice. "You just confessed to murder, on camera." Miranda blinked. Then her eyes flew wide. She spun around. A red recording light blinked from the far wall, one of Rowan's penthouse security cameras. The same one she hadn't disabled. Rowan stepped forward, voice low and triumphant. "You weren't talking to us, Miranda. You were talking to every federal agent monitoring this feed." Miranda's face drained of color. "No, you." "Tyler uploaded the live feed the moment we stepped off the elevator," Rowan said. "Everything you just admitted is already in government servers." Miranda stumbled backward, looking around wildly, like an animal discovering the trap had been set long before she arrived. "You set me up," she whispered. "No," Rowan said coldly. "You exposed yourself." Elena stepped out from behind Rowan, her voice steadying for the first time in hours. "You wanted me to break," she said, "but I'm still standing. And now, you're the one who's finished." Miranda's breath turned into a panicked gasp. Behind her, security surged forward. She made one last, desperate move toward the broken window. But Rowan grabbed her wrist, yanking her back just as officers tackled her to the floor, her scream echoing into the night. The moment Miranda Hale was dragged away in handcuffs, her screams echoing through the shattered penthouse, a strange silence flooded the room. Not peaceful. Not calm. Just empty. Like the air was catching its breath after holding danger too close for too long. Elena felt her legs give out beneath her, and Rowan caught her instantly, guiding her to the nearest chair. His hands were gentle but firm, grounding her the way no one ever had. "It's over," he murmured. But Elena shook her head slowly, staring at the glittering skyline, the broken glass scattered around them, the remnants of the chaos Miranda had dragged into her life. "No," she whispered. "It's not over. Not yet." Rowan frowned softly. "Elena, I need to understand something," Annette, she said, lifting her gaze to his. "Why did someone like her hate me so much? Why did she go this far?" Tyler stepped closer, his voice timid. "Because you were the one thing she couldn't control. She knew Grant still cared about you." Elena's breath hitched. "Grant didn't care about me." Tyler hesitated. "Not the way you deserved, but enough that Miranda felt threatened. Grant tried to break free from her months ago. He said he wanted to fix things with you." She panicked, and when Grant told her he might testify against her laundering, she took him out. Elena covered her mouth, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She didn't cry for Grant. She cried for the years she wasted believing he was her partner, her family, her safe place. Rowan knelt beside her chair, brushing her tears gently with his thumb. "You didn't deserve any of this." Elena looked at him, really looked at him. The bruise on his cheekbone from the fight, the cut at his lip, the steady, unshakable way he'd positioned himself between her and every threat that came through the door tonight. No man had ever fought for her like that. "Rowan, why did you do all of this?" she whispered. He swallowed, his eyes softening in a way she had never seen. "Because somewhere along the way, protecting you stopped being a responsibility and became something I needed to do. Something I wanted to do." Heat flushed her cheeks. Her heart fluttered in a way that felt foreign and frightening, yet warm. Before she could answer, Eleanor approached, arms crossed but expression unexpectedly gentle. "Elena," she said, "you survived what many women don't. And you didn't just survive, you exposed one of the most powerful financial predators in the country." She paused. "You should be proud." Elena blinked. "I'm exhausted." Eleanor allowed the faintest smile. Strength often hides behind exhaustion. Rowan rose and extended his hand. "Come with me." Elena hesitated, but took his hand. He led her through the penthouse, past the shattered window, past the room where she nearly died, past the chaos Miranda left behind, and into the quiet hallway. He stopped before a dimly lit mirror. Her reflection startled her. Her hair was tousled, her cheeks flushed, her eyes swollen but shining. Rowan stepped behind her, his voice a soft hush at her ear. "You don't look broken," he murmured. "You look reborn." A shiver ran through her, this one not from fear but relief. For the first time since signing those divorce papers, Elena saw herself not as a victim, but as a woman who had survived fire and come out the other side. She turned to Rowan, voice trembling. "What happens now?" He held her gaze, steady and sure. "Now, you rebuild, you choose your life, and if you want," his voice lowered, "you don't have to rebuild alone." Elena's lips parted, her heart pounding with new, unfamiliar hope. But a sudden buzz broke the moment. Rowan checked his phone, his jaw tightened. "Elena," he said cautiously, "there's one more thing, something we didn't expect." Her breath caught. "What is it?" Rowan hesitated. "Grant woke up." For a full second, Elena thought she misheard him. Grant, awake? Her heart lurched painfully, confusion crashing into her like a wave. Rowan stepped closer, voice gentle but tense. "The hospital just confirmed it. He regained consciousness 10 minutes ago." Elena's breath stuttered. "But he overdosed. He was barely breathing." "Hell." "Miranda didn't give him a lethal dose," Tyler said quietly. "She needed him alive long enough to frame you, but she miscalculated the mixture. He had a chance." Eleanor folded her arms, face unreadable. "If Grant is awake, the investigation shifts. He becomes a witness, and depending on what he says, the narrative could twist." Elena felt her stomach knot. "Twist? How?" Rowan looked pained. "If Grant lies to protect Miranda, you could still be dragged into this." Her blood ran cold. After everything she had endured, Grant still had the power to destroy her. She gripped the chair back to steady herself. "I need to see him." Rowan stepped forward sharply. "No, absolutely not." Elena raised her eyes, fire burning through the fear. "Rowan, if he speaks before I do, if he tells them something twisted, something Miranda coached him to say, I'll be fighting shadows again. I need to face him." Eleanor studied her quietly. "The question is to confront him or to free yourself from him?" Elena swallowed. "Both." Rowan hesitated, jaw flexing. "Then I'm coming with you." Tyler nodded. "Me too. He needs to know what Miranda really did." Rowan placed a protective hand on Elena's lower back as they exited the penthouse chaos. The ride to the hospital was tense. Dark Manhattan sweeping past the windows, the city lights fractured by the storm that had finally begun to fall. Soft sleet pattered against the Mercedes roof, adding a thin percussion to the dread twisting inside her. At the hospital, security escorted them through a side entrance. Nurses whispered when they recognized Rowan, but their eyes widened even more when they saw Elena. Rumors had already spread. Journalists lingering outside, trying to slip inside. A doctor approached them. "Grant Sutherland is awake, but still weak. He's emotional." "Emotional how?" Elena asked. The doctor hesitated, crying, panicked, "Asking for you." Elena froze. "Me?" Rowan's jaw tightened. They walked toward the recovery wing, the hall unnervingly quiet, lights dimmed to a soft glow. When they reached the door to Grant's room, Elena's hand shook as she reached for the handle. Rowan covered her hand with his. "You don't owe him anything." She looked at him, really looked. At the man who walked into her chaos and chose to stay. "Maybe not," she whispered. "But I need to hear the truth from him." She pushed the door open. Grant sat propped up in the hospital bed, face pale and gaunt. His eyes widened the moment he saw her. "Elena," he rasped, voice breaking. "I thought you were dead." She stiffened. "You thought I was dead?" Grant burst into tears, raw, messy, unrestrained. I'm so sorry. I didn't know Miranda was capable of this. I didn't know she'd try to kill you. She told me if I cooperated, she'd spare you." Elena's heart twisted painfully. "Spare her?" Miranda had planned worse. Grant continued, sobbing harder. "She said you were unstable, that you'd run away, that you didn't want the baby. She fed me lies for months. I let her. I was a coward." Elena took a shaky breath. "Grant, did you help her frame me?" His eyes filled with shame. "I didn't stop her." He wiped his face with trembling hands. "But I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant for you to suffer like this." Tyler stepped forward. "Grant, did Miranda force you to file the report against Elena? Did she drug you?" Grant swallowed. "Yes, and yes." Elena's breath caught. Rowan exhaled slowly, tension loosening from his shoulders. Not forgiveness, but clarity. Grant looked at Elena again. "You deserved better than me, better than all the hell I dragged you into. If you want me to testify, I will. I'll tell the truth, all of it." Elena felt something inside her shift, something heavy finally lifting. For months she'd carried guilt, betrayal, humiliation like a boulder tied to her chest. But now the man who once crushed her was handing her the final key to freedom. Alina, Grant whispered, voice cracking, can you ever forgive me? Elena swallowed, tears stinging her eyes, but her voice when it came was steady. Grant, forgiving you doesn't mean I want you in my future, but it means I'm done letting you haunt my past. Grant sobbed harder, nodding. Rowan stepped closer, taking Elena's hand gently in his, and for the first time she didn't pull away. Grant looked at their joined hands, a single tear sliding down his cheek, but he didn't protest. He understood. Elena had moved on, and soon, the world would know the full truth from his own mouth. The next morning, sunlight poured over Manhattan like a quiet promise, soft, golden, steady. For the first time in months, Elena woke without fear, clenching her ribs. She stood on the balcony of Rowan's penthouse, wrapped in a warm coat, watching the city breathe beneath her. Cars moved like tiny sparks on Park Avenue. The world kept moving, and this time she felt ready to move with it. Behind her, Rowan stepped out, coffee in hand. Did you sleep? A little, she admitted. Enough to remember what peace feels like. He offered her the mug. She held it carefully, the warmth drifting into her fingers. They stood side by side in comfortable silence. Not tense, not cautious, just present. A soft knock sounded from inside. Tyler appeared in the doorway, holding a tablet. You should see this, he said nervously. Elena and Rowan followed him inside. On the tablet screen was a live news broadcast. Grant Sutherland sitting up in his hospital bed. Reporters clustered around him. He looked fragile, remorseful, honest. Miranda Hale manipulated me, Grant said, voice trembling. She drugged me, coerced me, and used my weaknesses to hurt Alina Marlowe. She was behind every lie, every forged document, every fabricated accusation. Alina is innocent. She has always been innocent. Alina pressed a hand to her chest. Grant continued. And if not for her courage and Rowan Thorne's intervention, I might not be alive today. Rowan raised a brow. Well, that's unexpected. Tyler nodded. He told the truth. Everything. As the statement concluded, the anchor announced Miranda Hale had been officially charged with attempted murder, financial fraud, extortion, conspiracy, and obstruction. She was being transferred to a maximum security facility. Alina exhaled shakily, tears welling, relief, grief, release all tangled together. It's really over, she whispered. Rowan touched her shoulder gently. It's over because you stood up. Miranda didn't fall because you were weak. She fell because you finally stopped letting her define your story. Elena turned toward him. I couldn't have done it without you. He met her gaze, something soft and dangerous flickering beneath the surface. You didn't need me to fight. You only needed someone to remind you you're worth fighting for. Her breath caught. Eleanor Thorne entered then, elegant as ever, holding a folder. Elena, dear, the board of directors at the charity foundation you worked with reached out. They want you to join their leadership team. With your experience and everything you've survived, you'd be the perfect voice for women rebuilding after crisis. Elena blinked, stunned. Me? A leadership position? Eleanor smiled, a rare, genuine smile. Yes, consider it a beginning rather than an ending. Emotion flooded her. For so long she had felt buried under shame, fear, and uncertainty. Now, a future she thought impossible was opening at her feet. Rowan stepped closer. Elena, there's something else. He reached into his coat pocket. Her breath hitched. Rowan? He didn't kneel. He simply held her hands, eyes steady, warm, devoted. I'm not asking you to leap, he said softly. I'm asking if you'll let me walk beside you, whether that means friendship, partnership, or something more. His thumb brushed her knuckles. I want to be in your future, yours and the baby's, if you'll have me. Tears filled her eyes, thick and shimmering. Rowan, you've already become part of my future. He exhaled, relief flickering across his features as he pulled her gently into his arms. She melted into him, not because she needed saving, but because she had finally learned she didn't have to stand alone anymore. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, the weight she carried for so long finally lifted. Alina Marlowe, once broken, betrayed, discarded, had survived fire, faced her demons, and reclaimed her life. Now she was stepping into something new, something whole, something hers. And for the first time, her future felt brighter than the Manhattan sunrise glowing behind her. So the story closes, my dear friends. And if you're still here with me right now, it means something in this journey touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Elena's story reminds us of a truth many of us forget. No matter how deep the betrayal, No matter how heavy the storm, the strength to rise is already inside us. The Stoics often said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's exactly what Elena discovered. She learned that healing isn't about pretending the pain never existed. It's about choosing not to let it define who you become. Life may break us, but we decide whether those cracks stay open or grow into the places where light enters. So if you're walking through something hard right now, take a breath and remember, resilience is built one decision at a time, and you too can choose a new beginning. If this story moved you, even a little, I'd be so grateful if you'd like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps these stories reach the hearts that need them most. And remember, I'm right here with you, walking through every chapter together.